And now we're joined from Paris by the director of the EU ASEAN Centre, Nicholas Fursley. Thank you very much for being here with us on Qnews. So let's start with the US-China trade deal. How significant is this one-year suspension of tariffs in easing trade tensions between the United States and China, would you say, Nick?
Delighted to join you today. I think it's quite significant. It's another sign that the American eagle and the Chinese dragon are kind of partitioning the world as we know it. So we're really entering in that new era, the age of geoeconomics, which means that Britain, but even more so the European Union, and even more so ASEAN countries, except maybe Singapore and South Korea. But most ASEAN countries and most European Union countries will suffer in that new era. They'll be crushed in the crossfire between Washington and Beijing. And that rivalry, that new great game or new Cold War, it may last 100 years or 2,000 years, who knows? And so during that long-term rivalry between two giants, it doesn't mean there will be a hot war where things are brutal and confrontational all the time. It means we will have long periods, hopefully, of détente, excuse my French, and during that détente, because many people in the entourage of Trump are neo-Nixonians, they believe in détente, they believe in that when you're strong, quote unquote, the Chinese will respect you, right? So they're trying to come to a point where these two giants can coexist, right? Can live together, as the Chinese used to say in the 1960s, they can sleep in the same bed, even though they don't make the same dream, right? So they're reaching that equilibrium, which is difficult, but I think they're reaching it.
And what sort of effect do you think this will have on US industries? I'm thinking of, par exemple, as we're going on the French, rare earths, critical minerals, magnets.
So yeah, so the deal is about China, letting 80, 90% of the free flow of the rare, refined rare earth minerals it controls to flow to American industry, which means to flow to factories in Oklahoma, Kentucky, the Rust Belt. And by the way, many of these gigantic factories, new factories in the American Rust Belt in the Midwest, will be built with money coming from South Korea, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, and Saudi Arabia, right? So the capital is coming from Asia and the Arabian Gulf, and the rare earth mineral is coming from central China. And in exchange for that, it's a bargain, it's a deal. In exchange for that, Trump will ensure that big Chinese companies will have access, free access to that gigantic consumer market called America. And he will also allow some of the most advanced microchips produced in America, Taiwan, and Holland to flow freely to industrial companies in China. So it's kind of a win-win deal for both sides, for both the Chinese and the Americans. It's maybe a slightly bigger win for America, but I think they're both getting something tangible and useful from that deal.
And what do you think it says for the countries in their relationship with each other? How important is this trade agreement when it comes to the American-Chinese relationship?
I think it's interesting in a way because, of course, Trump is caricatured in the media in Britain, Europe, and the Middle East. And I think it means that, behind the bravado, behind, Trump's worst enemy is Trump himself. So behind, the bravado and theatrics, blah, 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 which can be abrasive and counterproductive, I think Trump is quite smart. He's a neo-realist. He's a cold-blooded, calculating animal, which is good because when he sits with the Chinese, and the Chinese are also cold-blooded, calculating operators, they can reach a cold, brutish deal. And as long as the deal is stable, as long as both parties get something out of it, I think it creates stability for the world economy, which is good. I think what was bad under, Biden or under people like von der Leyen or Macron when they go to Beijing, if they go to Beijing, the likes of Macron, von der Leyen, Tony Blinken, Tony Blair, these people, when they go to Beijing, they lecture the Chinese about ethics and morality. At least, with Trump, there is no philosophical lecture about morality. They're in business, and I think it makes things easier.
Yeah, I mean, you make a comment there about Trump not really caring about morality, but he is a little bit obsessed with fentanyl. What this deal obviously covers fentanyl. Is this going to have a major effect on the opioid crisis in the United States?
Yes and no, because fentanyl is in the gray zone. So all nations, all superpowers have a gray zone, which they don't completely control. It's very dark and murky. What I'm coming at, you have the triads. The triads are these very powerful, ultra rich, sort of Chinese mafia organizations, and they're not, controlled completely by the government. They're on the fringes, and they're present in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Britain, America. So it's not only a Chinese issue, it's a world issue. And they're in the business of exporting, drugs, including fentanyl, to America. And I think what Trump wanted is for the Chinese police, the Chinese military, the Chinese, secret services to do a better job at clamping down on the triad, on the mobsters in the big Chinese cities, Shanghai, Hong Kong, etc. And I think maybe in the past they were negligent, maybe complacent, to use a French word, and under pressure from Trump, the Chinese police will be less complacent and they will allocate more resources to fight the Chinese mafia.
Okay. No, yeah, I just wanted to go on to TikTok for a second because we're hearing in our report there about this deal with ByteDance, and I could hardly believe that China has agreed to this deal, having just one board seat, less than 20% of the ownership with TikTok, the United States, and Americans holding the other 6 places on the board. And this bit particularly interested me. The algorithm will be retrained and then monitored by U.S. security partners in that land of the free. What do you make of this deal?
You're right. It's a very complex issue. To make a long story short, it's not free. So the American buyers, private sector buyers, friends of Trump, of course, they will pay hefty multiples. So when the deal is finalized in the coming weeks, the price they will pay for TikTok will be very high. So the current Chinese owner, they will not be expropriated as they do in the Soviet Union or France. So in France or Africa or Soviet Russia, when you are expropriated, you get a kopeck. Here, the Chinese are being kind of expropriated, but they will get billions, like tens of billions of dollars of profits. Now, back to your question. Yes, there is a double standard in the field of tech and high tech. You are right, because when Chinese companies and Chinese individuals use American-made apps and the database and the algorithm are somewhere in Oklahoma or Pennsylvania, no one in China complains about it. On the flip side, when American companies and American consumers use a big, successful Chinese-made app and the data are in China and the algorithm is controlled by China, then it becomes a big issue. So here there is a double standard. What does it mean? America wants to keep its supremacy in the field of tech because America already lost its supremacy in the field of civil engineering, construction, high-speed rail, modern transportation, etc., which are already completely controlled by China. So China already cornered 60 or 70% of the industrial sectors of the world economy. One of the few sectors where America still has an edge is applications, softwares, AI, and high tech, and they want to keep it.
All right. Well, thank you very much so much. It's always great to see you, Nick. Thank you very much for being here and helping us understand those issues a little bit clearer. Thank you very much. From Paris, the director of the EU ASEAN Centre, Meha Nicholas, firstly, thank you very much indeed.